Hello everyone and welcome back to Dazzersports YouTube channel. Now today in this video we're going to be reviewing round 24 of the NRL. So round 24 happened this weekend. It was a pretty good round, but yeah, I'm just going to be reviewing it. So don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, and let's get straight into it. So round 24 kicked off with a top of the table clash. It was first place Panthers versus the second place Roosters. Now, if the Panthers won this game, they would have remained first. And if the Roosters won this game, they would have moved up to first. And the Roosters beating the Panthers in a pretty tight, low-scoring game. 12-6 was the full-time score in this one. So after a lot of weeks, after at least 12 plus weeks of the Panthers being top of the table, the Roosters are now top of the table. They are first after beating Panthers 12 points to 6. Now, I didn't live stream this game, but I did watch this game. It was a pretty low-scoring game. Even though it was a low-scoring game, it was still an exciting game to watch since it was a tight game. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much enjoyed this game. But even though there wasn't that many points, going due to the bigness of this game, it was actually entertaining to watch, even though it was like a low-scoring game. But yeah, Roosters won. Finally, someone is finally first on the table, except for the Panthers, which is kind of good. But yeah, 12-6. So in the first half, as I said, it was a low-scoring game. So in the first half, we only saw a try and a penalty goal because 19 minutes into the game, Dale Cherry Evan scored a try with Sam Walker getting the conversion over to make it 6-0 Sydney. So a quarter gone, it was now 6-0 Sydney. And then just before halftime, Sam Walker gets a penalty goal over for the halftime score to be 8-0 to the Roosters against Penrith. Then the second half was about the same thing. Penrith got a try and Sydney got a try. So basically, in the first from the 40th minute to the 65th minute, no points were scored. But then in the 66th minute, Moses Leota finally scores the first try for the Penrith in this game. Nathan Cleary gets it over. So now Penrith only trail by 2 with 13 minutes to go. And then to seal the win for the Sydney Roosters, in the 76th minute, Dale Cherry Evans scores a try. He scored 2 tries in this game with Sam Walker missing the conversion. So now Penrith had about less than 3 minutes to score a converted try to make it go into Golden Point, but it didn't. The Roosters holding on and beating the Penrith Panthers 12 points to 6. So yeah, that was the final score there. So now the Roosters, they move up to first on the table. Now the Panthers are behind on second by 2 points. But yeah, just a big game to open up round 24 there. Then we move on to Friday night footy, which was the first one. It was the Sea Eagles versus the Dolphins. Now, the Sea Eagles sort of needed to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive, or their postseason hopes alive. But the Dolphins getting a pretty much comfortable win against the Sea Eagles. Dolphins getting the win and keeping the Sea Eagles scoreless in this game. But yep, 22-0 the full-time score. But so yep, Dolphins, they move up to 4th on the table, which is good. So now Dolphins are in the top 4 after this win. But yeah, 22-0 was the full-time score. There was 4 tries by the Dolphins in this game, but basically the game kicked off in the first 20 minutes. No points were scored, but then in the 25th minute, Jermaine Osako gets a penalty over to make it 2-0 to the Dolphins. And then about 3 minutes after the Dolphins get that penalty goal over, Manly get a sin bin to Lutu Kula, gets a sin bin for the Sea Eagles. So now Manly are down to 12 men for the next 10 minutes. And with a man in the bin, that gave Dolphins an advantage because in the 29th minute, Cody Nikarima scores a try of Jermaine Osako, getting the conversion over to make it 8-0 to the Dolphins. And then in the 35th minute, about 7 minutes after Manly got a sin bin, in the 35th minute, Dolphins get a sin bin. Connolly Lemuelu gets a sin bin. So basically, with about 3 minutes left in the bin for Manly, Dolphins get a man in the bin. So basically, Dolphins are down to 12 men for the remaining 5 minutes of the first half and the opening 5 minutes of the second half. And yeah, that concluded the first half. 8-0 was the half time score. So a bit of an interesting first half with 2 sin bins. Then the second half got underway, and in the 57th minute started the Dolphins momentum, because the Dolphins scored about 3 tries in about in about 17 minutes, because in the 57th minute, Salon Cobo scores a try. Jermaine Osako getting the conversion over to make it 14-0 Dolphins. So now with a quarter to go, the pressure was now on the Manly Sea Eagles. But then the 61st minute, which put tons and tons of pressure on Manly Seagulls, in the 61st minute, Jack Bostock scores a try to make it 18-0. Jermaine Osako missing the conversion there. And then to finally seal the win, the last try in the 73rd minute, Jermaine Osako scores a try to make the full-time score 22-0. Dolphins beating the Rabbitohs, not the Rabbitohs, the Dolphins, the Manly Seagulls there. So now the Manly Seagulls season is technically over. I think they still have a mathematical chance because of the Bulldogs, and I think because of the Cowboys losing this week, they still have a mathematical chance. But yeah, good win for the Dolphins. They move up to top 4 there. Then we moved on to the next game, which was ninth v 7th place. It was a must-win game for the Bulldogs. But yeah, the Rabbitohs, they were 7th. They'll be looking to try and stay in the top 8, and they did. 22-6, the full-time score, the Rabbitohs beating the Bulldogs there. But yeah, what a game indeed we saw there in this game. I mean, 10-0 was the halftime score there, but basically in the first half there was only 2 tries by the Rabbitohs in the first half, with David Fafita scoring in the 22nd minute for the Rabbitohs, with Jaden Sullivan getting the conversion over to make it 6-0 to the Rabbitohs. Then the 28th minute, Alex Johnson scores a try, so it was back-to-back tries for the Rabbitohs to make the halftime score 10-0 to the Rabbitohs against the Bulldogs. And now Bulldogs were only down by 10 at halftime, so they needed to pick it up in the second half. But then in the first minute of the second half, in the 40th minute, Talius Duncan scores in the opening minutes of the second half to make it 14-0. Then about 5 minutes later, in the 46th minute, Campbell Graham scores a try to make it 18-0. So basically in the opening 7 minutes of the second half, there was 2 tries by the Rabbitohs there. So now the Bulldogs are in deep trouble now. And then in the 61st minute, with 90 minutes to go, Inari Tuala scores a try with Stephen Crichton getting the conversion over to make it 18-6 to the Rabbitohs. So now Bulldogs, they were trying to get back in this game. But then in the 77th minute, to seal the win for the Rabbitohs, Matthew Duffy scores a try to make the full-time score 22-6 to the South Sydney Rabbitohs. But I mean, what a game it was indeed there. Yeah, so Bulldogs, they still have, as I said before about the Manly, Bulldogs still have a chance after the Cowboys this, because if the Cowboys would have won this week, it would have made it so much harder for Manly and the Bulldogs to make it into top 8. But yeah, with that Cowboys loss, the Bulldogs still have a chance. But yeah, it's getting harder for the Bulldogs and Manly Seagulls right now. But yeah, the Rabbitohs got the win, 22 points to 6 there. Then we move on to the Super Saturday triple header. First one up was the Sharks, the Raiders. Now the Sharks, they currently moved down to 5th on the table. They were looking to bounce back after that an embarrassing loss against the Dolphins last week. But yeah, the Raiders beating the Sharks. So the Sharks get back-to-back losses in a row. So now the Sharks in the final few games are starting to go downhill with back-to-back losses. The Raiders just beating the Sharks 24-0. 24-20 was the full-time score. Raiders holding on to winning that game. But yeah, an interesting one indeed, as in the first half, in the opening 3 minutes, Cronulla got a penalty with Nico Hines getting the penalty over. So basically it was now 2-0 to the Cronulla Sharks. And then 3 minutes later, in the 5th minute, Braden Trindle scores the opening try for the Sharks. He misses the conversion, but yeah, in the first 6 minutes, it was now 8-0 to the Sharks. So what a start. And then in the 11th minute, the Raiders strike back. Xavier Savage scoring a try with Ethan Strange getting the conversion over. So now Raiders were only trailing by 2. Then in the 15th minute, Owen Paddy scores a try with Ethan Sanders getting the conversion over to make it 12-8 to the Raiders. And then in the 32nd minute, Jed Stewart scores a try with Ethan Sanders getting the conversion over to make it 18 points 8 there. And then in the 35th minute, Teague Wilson scores a try just before halftime. Nico Hines gets it over to make the halftime score. Raiders leading by 4 at half time. But it was 8-0 to Cronulla, but then Raiders, they did make a comeback to make it 18-8, and then of course Cronulla scored just for half time. But yeah, Raiders leading by 4, so it was a pretty tight first half. Then the second half, it was a pretty boring second half. Only 2 tries were scored in the second half, but still, it was still an entertaining second half just because of how tight it was. But basically, in the 49th minute, Cronulla scored a try. William Kinney scores a try. Nico Hines getting conversion over. So now the Sharks have back the lead 20 points to 18 with half an hour to go. Then the 56th minute, Joseph Tarpany scores the last try for the Raiders in this game. If Vincent Sanders getting the conversion over. And then in the final 20 minutes, Raiders hold on to beat the Sharks 24-20. So the Raiders get a win. So now Cronulla have back-to-back losses there. So that's very unlucky for the Cronulla Sharks. And now Cronulla move to 5th on the table with this loss. But yeah, what a win. But yeah, this is really bad for Cronulla, man, because there's only about 3 rounds to go. And if they lose another one, they could possibly drop down of the top 5 in that. And yeah, so Cronulla sort of choking it in the final few games. But yeah, what a win for the Raiders, holding on 24 points to 20. Now we move on to my second favorite game of round 24, which was the Eels versus the Cowboys. Now the Cowboys are currently 8th on the table. They were looking for a win to try and create a points gap between the Bulldogs and the Cowboys. Now, if Cowboys would have won this game, the Bulldogs' chances of the top 8 would have probably been all but finished. But yeah, the Eels saving the Cowboys and Manly seasons, giving them a chance for the top 8 after the Eels beating the Cowboys in a high-scoring game. Now, this was a fun game to stream, 32-30, the Eels beating the Cowboys. Now, in the first half, in the opening 10 minutes, Cowboys scored a try with Reid Mahoney scoring a try with Scott Drinkwater, getting the conversion over to make it 6-0 to the Cowboys. Then in the 13th minute, Apa Twindle scores a try with Mitchell Moses, getting the conversion over to make it 6-0 between Parramatta and the Cowboys there. Then the 18th minute, Ronald Volkman scores a try to make it 10-6 to Parramatta. So it's just a try. It was sort of like a what do you call it? Like one team scores, then the other team scores type scenario. So it's now 10-6. And then in the 20th minute, Helam Lukey gets a sin bin for the Cowboys. So basically the Cowboys down to 12 men for the next 10 minutes. That gave Parramatta an advantage because in the 21st minute, with the Cowboys playing the bin, Talan De Silva scores a try for Parramatta to make it 14-6 to the Parramatta Eels. And then with still Helam Lukey still in the bin in the 29th minute, Cowboys were able to score a try with a man in the bin. Braden Burns scores a try. Scott Drinkwater getting the conversion over. And then in the final 10 minutes, Helam Lukey came back out onto the park, but no points were scored. So the halftime score, Parramatta just leading the Cowboys at halftime by 2 points, 14 points to 12 was the halftime score. And the second half was just absolutely thrilling, especially the opening 15 minutes of the second half, because in the opening 15 minutes of the second half, we saw 4 tries with Parramatta scored in the opening 3 minutes of the second half. In the 43rd minute, Josh Adokar scored a try with Mitchell Moses, missing the conversion, so it's now 18-12 to the Parramatta Eels. Then the 48th minute, Jackson Purdue scores a try for the Cowboys with Scott Drinkwater getting the conversion over to make it 18-all. Then 3 minutes later, in the 51st minute, Ruben Cotter scores a try, plus Scott Drinkwater gets the conversion over to give the Cowboys the lead, 24 points to 18. But that lead was cut dry because 3 minutes later, Talan De Silva scores his second try for Parramatta with Mitchell Moses getting conversion over. For 15 minutes gone in the second half, it was now 24-all. It was back-to-back different tries by both teams. But, man, what an opening 15 minutes of that second half. Then about 2 minutes later, after Parramatta scored a try, Cowboys score a try to give back their lead. Tom Chester scoring a try with Scott Drinkwater getting the conversion over. So it's now 30-24 to Cowboys. Cowboys, once again, for like the 3rd or 4th time in this game, get back their lead. It was now 30 points to 24 for there. Then with 18 minutes to go in the 62nd minute, Parramatta tie up this game for like the third time in this game. Jordan Samarani scores a try with Mitchell Mose getting the conversion over. So now with 17 minutes to go, it was 30-all. It was coming down to the wire. And then to seal the win for the Parramatta Eels in the 74th minute, Mitchell Moses gets a penalty goal over for Parramatta. And then North Queensland had about 5 minutes to try and score a try to win this game, but Parramatta hold on for the final 5 minutes. Parramatta beating the Cowboys 32 points to 30. So now with that Cowboys loss, Manly Sea Eagles and the Rabbitohs, the Manly Sea Eagles and the Bulldogs still have a chance after that Cowboys loss. But 32-30, the full-time score. That was just an entertaining game to watch. Like, it was just, especially that opening 20 minutes of that second half was just absolutely peak football. But Eels get the win 32 points to 30. Then to end off Super Saturday was the Brisbane Broncos versus the Warriors. Now the Warriors needed to get about a plus 50 points lead. A plus 50 points win to move up to second, because before the game started, Penrith were currently second on the table after that loss against the Roosters, and the Warriors, they were third on the table, and they were tied on this. They needed about a 50 points win to move up to second, because Penrith were leading by 50 points in the point differential between those two sides. But the Warriors getting the win. The Warriors beating the Broncos 40 points to 6, an absolute brilliant victory for the Wars. And with that the Wars stay on third. They're about a few points. They are tied on the same points as the Penrith Panthers, but they stay on third because the Panthers just lead by a few points on points differential. But what a victory for the Wars. Back-to-back wins for the Wars this season against the Brisbane Broncos. But what a first half from the Wars. So the Warriors, my team, the Warriors, scored 20 points in the first half of this first half, because 8 minutes into this game, Jacob Laban scores a try with to make it 4-0. Then the 13th minute, Chanel Harris-Tavita scores a try for the Warriors with Luke Metcalf getting the conversion over to make it 10-0 to the Warriors. Then the 17th minute, Chance Nickel-Cookstar gets sin bin. So now the Warriors were down to 10 to 12 minutes for the next 10 minutes. But that didn't stop the Wires from scoring another try, because in the 18th minute, Olofiana Camperera scores a try. It was an intercept try to make it 16-0 to the Warriors against the Cowboys. And then Luke Metcalf, he got the conversion over, but then sadly, he pulled his hamstring again. I think it's his third time in his career he pulls his hamstring against the Warriors. It was pretty disappointing to see that there. But, so now that could have been Luke Metcalf's last game for the Warriors, possibly, because he's going to the Dragons next year. So it was sad to see that. So it's now 16-0 Warriors. Then in the 26th minute, Warriors get a penalty. Chanel Harris-Tavita gets it over to make it 18-0 to the Warriors. And then just before halftime, the Warriors get another penalty. Chanel Harris-Tavita goes 2 for 2 on penalty goals to make the halftime score 20-0 to the Warriors. So now the Warriors only need to score about 26 more points to pass the Penrith Panthers and move up to second pass points differential. And in the opening 5 minutes of the game, in the 45th minute, Chance Nickel-Cookstar scores a try. He got a sin bin in the first half, but he was able to score a try in the second half to make it 24-0. Then in the 51st minute, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak scores an unbelievable try in the corner. Chanel Harris-Tavita gets the conversion over to make it 30-0 to the Warriors. So the Warriors were about to just smash the Brisbane Broncos. In the 55th minute, Ale Leatoa scores a try for the Warriors with Chanel Harris-Tavita getting the conversion to make it 36-0. So now the Warriors only need to score 8. I think it was about a few more points to pass the Panthers and move up to second because of points differential. But sadly, in the 60th minute, Xavier Wilson scored a try to make it 36-6, which minus the Warriors 6 points on their for and against there. So it's now 36-6. And then the 77th minute, Lekhala Sema scores a try to make the full-time score 40 points to 6, but it wasn't enough for the Warriors. The Warriors didn't score the right amount of points to move up to second. But anyway, the Warriors win 40 points to 6, an absolutely brilliant, another clinical performance by this Warriors, 40 points to 6. And just what a win for my Warriors team, as we definitely needed that win. So now we now are tied on second with the same amount of points, but it's just the points differential is about the Panthers got a better for and against than us by about like 8 points. But yeah, what a win, 40 points to 6 there. Then we move on to Sunday afternoon footy. It was the 6th place Newcastle Knights, and the Knights, to seal a top 8 spot after finishing wooden spoon last year, they needed to get this win against the Titans, and they did. 36-26 was the full-time score there. So the Knights, after finishing wooden spoon last year, guarantee a top 8 spot in this year's NRL final series. 36-26. The Titans losing another one. This was a pretty high-scoring game, but in the first half, we saw 3 tries by the Newcastle Knights and 2 from Gold Coast Titans. But Newcastle in the first 20 minutes went out to a 16-0 start, because in the 4th minute, Dane Gagai scored a try with Sandon Smith getting the conversion over to make it 6-0 to the Newcastle Knights. Then 3 minutes later, in the 7th minute, Greg Majus dots down to make it 10-0. So in 8 minutes gone, it was now 10-0 to the Newcastle Knights. What a start by the Newcastle Knights there. Then the 17th minute, Dane Gagai scores the second try of the game to make it 16-0. Newcastle open up to a 16-0 start with 20 minutes gone in this game. What a start. Dane Gagai scoring 2 tries in the opening 20 minutes of this first half. Then the 32nd minute, it took 32 minutes for the Gold Coast Titans to score their first try of the game. Fermoy scores the try with Jaden Campbell getting it over, so it's now 16-6. And then in the 36th minute, Jaden Campbell scores another try. So basically, in a span of 5 minutes of momentum, Gold Coast were able to score 2 quick tries. So now Gold Coast were back in this game. They were only trailing by 6 at halftime. 16-10 was the halftime score to the Newcastle Knights against the Gold Coast Titans. Then in the second half, in the opening 8 minutes, in the 48th minute, Fletcher Hunt scores a try to make it 20 points to 10. So now Newcastle were back to a 10-point lead. Then the 56th minute, Curtis Moran scores a try. That was the Gold Coast Titans' 3rd try of the game. It was now 20 points to 14. Jaden Campbell's missed the conversion, so now Gold Coast were only down by 6 points. Then from the 61st minute to the 74th minute, the Newcastle were able to score 3 quick tries in the span of about 13 minutes, because in the 61st minute, Fletcher Sharp scores a try to make it 26-14 with Sandon Smith getting the conversion over. So now all the pressure was on, but then it just derailed from there, because in the 69th minute, Greg Majus scores the second try of the game to make it 30 points to 14. Now with 10 minutes to go, it was Newcastle had sealed the win, but then to properly seal this victory, in the 74th minute, Fletcher Sharp scores the second try of the game with Sandon Smith getting the conversion over. So it's now 36-14 to the Newcastle Knights against the Gold Coast Titans. Then the 77th minute, just before the end of the game, Fermar scores the second try for the Titans in this game to make it 36-20. And then in the 78th minute, Lachlan Elias scores a try with Jaden Campbell getting it over. So basically, in the final 4 minutes, Gold Coast were able to score 2 quick tries, but it wasn't enough. Newcastle Knights earning a top 8 spot, 36-26 the full-time scores to Newcastle Knights, and now into the top 8 are officially into the final series. But another loss for the Gold Coast Titans there. But after the Knights finished the wooden spoon last year, the Knights guarantee a top 8 spot. So what a comeback from last season's terrible season last year to guaranteeing a top 8 spot this year. But what a win for the Newcastle Knights, 36-20 the full time. 36-26 was the full-time score there. Then we move on to a big one. It was the West Tigers versus the Dragons. Now, the Dragons, they were looking to back-to-back wins after upsetting the Sharks last week. And yes, they did it again. Dragons finding some confidence in these last few rounds of the season. 24-20, 22 to full-time score. The Dragons getting back-to-back wins. So now, could we see the Broncos getting the winning spoon? Because I did see that with this win, the Dragons are now on 14th point, and just ahead of the Dragons in 16th point is the Broncos. Now, if the Dragons can win their remaining games and the Broncos losing their remaining games as well, could we see the Broncos finishing wooden spoon? That would be absolutely unbelievable if the Dragons Dragons move past last place, because Dragons have been in last place for like 15 plus rounds or so. So imagine if they win their last few games, go on like a winning streak, going on like a 4-game winning streak, and the Broncos going on a losing streak for the Broncos to finish wooden spoon. Imagine that. But 24-22 was the full-time score. But basically, the game kicked off 15 minutes into this game. Sunuia Taruva scores a try to make it 6-0 to the West Tigers. Adam Dewey getting the conversion over. Then in the 21st minute, Dragons scored their first try of the game. Charo Sainz scores it. Carl Flanagan gets the conversion over to make it 6-all between the West Tigers and the Dragons. Then the 31st minute, Hamish Stewart scores a try for the Dragons, with Valentine Holmes getting the conversion over. So now Dragons had the lead 12 points to 6. Then the 37th minute, Moses Suli gets a try to make the halftime score 18-6 to the Dragons. So after 20 minutes gone, it was 6-0 to the West Tigers. But then in the final 20 minutes of this first half, we saw 3 tries by the Dragons. So what an end to the first half there. Then the second minute, in the opening 10 minutes of the second half, in the 48th minute, Samuela Fainu scores a try with Adam Dewey getting it over. So the West Tigers only trail by 6. The West Tigers back in this game. But then the 58th minute, King Tongia scores a try with Valentine Holmes getting it over. So now with 20 minutes to go, Dragons were now leading by 2 converted tries. And then the West Tigers, they needed to score 2 converted tries to send it to golden point. The West Tigers were able to score 2 tries. But basically, in the final 10 minutes, West Tigers were able to score 2 tries, because in the 70th and 75th minute, Solomona Sakuda scores 2 tries for the West Tigers in the final 10 minutes of the second half of the game. With Adam Dewey, he missed the conversion. He missed the first conversion, but then he got the second conversion, but it wasn't enough. 24-22, the Dragons holding on to get back-to-back losses. Now, if Adam Dewey got another conversion over, it would have gone to golden point. But the Dragons getting back-to-back wins, 24-22, the full-time score there. I mean, what a win. What a win for the Dragons there. They get back-to-back losses, and now they're 4 points behind 16th place Broncos. So as you can see, if I can show you guys here, I'll just quickly pull it up here. If you can see, the Dragons, they're currently 17th on the table. They're currently on 14th points. The Broncos, they're on 18th points. Now, if the Dragons, there's about 2-3 games to go now. If Dragons can win their last 3 games and the Broncos losing their last 3 games, the Dragons could move up to 20 points. The Broncos would stay on 18th points, and we could see the Broncos getting the wooden spoon. So it really is going to be interesting for the battle for the wooden spoon. Will it be the Broncos or will it be the Dragons? But yep, this is how the ladder looks after round 24 with 3 rounds to go. Roosters move up the first. They're on 38 points. Now the Panthers and Warriors. Panthers are second on 36 points. The Warriors are also on third. But the Panthers are just ahead against the Warriors because of points differential, because the Panthers have a better points differential than the Warriors, because the Panthers have 286 differential and the Warriors 276. So that's 10 points. Now, this is very interesting. With the Sharks loss, the Sharks move down to 5th and the Dolphins move up to 4th. The Dolphins are now on 34 points. The Sharks, they're on 32 points, with the Knights just ahead on 32 points. The Rabbitohs and Cowboys, the Rabbitohs, they are 7th on 30 points, with the Cowboys on 28 points. Now, with that Cowboys loss, the Bulldogs still technically have a chance. the Seagulls, they still about have a 10% chance. I think they would need to win their last 3 games, plus the Cowboys and Bulldogs, I think, would have to lose their remaining few games. So I think the Bulldogs still technically have a chance. The Seagulls probably not, but yep, the Bulldogs, they are 2 points behind the Cowboys. But yeah, it's going to be interesting which one of these two teams will get a top 8 spot. The Rabbitohs have sort of guaranteed a top 8 spot, not so far, because the Rabbitohs, they are 2 points ahead of the top 8. They're about 4 points out, 4 points from going out of a top 8 spot. So I think if the Rabbitohs win this week, that should maybe seal them a top 8 spot there. We shall see what happens there. But yeah, I'd say the Bulldogs have a better chance now with that Cowboys loss. Yep. And then of course, this is what the remaining few teams are doing that can't make it off. Yep. 3 rounds to go, ladies and gentlemen. It's all coming down to the wire. Who is going to finish top of the table? Who's going to make the top 8? It's coming down to the wire. 3 rounds to go until the regular season is over. And then we move on to final footies. I am so excited. Yeah, comment down below who you think is going to finish first place. Comment down below. And also comment down below who you think is going to get the wooden spoon. Is it going to be the Broncos or is it going to be the Dragons? But yeah, 3 rounds to go. We got round 25 this week. I'm super duper looking forward. It's getting so tight. The top 4's tight. 5th and 8th place is pretty tight. But yeah, it's going to be interesting indeed. But anyway, guys, thanks everyone so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, turn on post notifications. I'll probably be live streaming at least maybe about 3 games of round 25. I'll probably stream the 2 Friday night games this week. I might do the Thursday game. I think I've only streamed the Thursday game at least once this season. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, 3 rounds to go. It's coming down to a wire. But anyway, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.